Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church, one of the fastest growing churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Welcome to Life Recovery Today. There's this wonderful book called I'll Quit Tomorrow, and the reason that's such a wonderful title is because so many people put it off. And I'm not just talking about alcohol and drugs or whatever. I'm just talking about whatever it is we need to do to get healthy, because we do know that the 12 steps work for anything and anybody. Well, I was thinking about how we're going to open this up, and I've got a great, wonderful guest with me today. But before we do, I want to talk to you a little bit about the 9th step and character. You know, Abe Lincoln, he said this. He says, I think that character is very much like a tree, and your reputation is like a shadow of that tree. He says, you know, what we see is the shadow, but the real thing is actually the tree. Well, I want to talk to you, I don't know what your reputation is, because that could be good, bad, false, not. But when it comes to character, you know, Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15:33, bad company corrupts good character. Well, don't we know that? And that's what's so amazing when we go from all these unhealthy influences, getting into recovery, and then we have all of a sudden people pulling for us doing a lot of healthy things. Well, of course, with a lack of character, we do crummy stuff. Addiction, struggle, obsessions, compulsions, they just seem to deteriorate character. And so what we've got to do, according to the 9th step, is go make it right with all those people that we hurt, damaged, that we need to make restitution for. Now, it takes character to do that. And then it builds character when you do that. But what a great thing it is. You know, character and courage have this in common. Both of them require doing whatever it takes, whenever it needs to be done, no matter the consequences. So, you know, if you've got character, you're going to make it right. It takes courage to do that. But in this case, when you do it, even though it's tough, the consequences I've found in my own life, 9 times out of 10, very, very positive consequences. Well, we've got an amazing guest that I'll introduce to you right after this break. I think you're going to enjoy this, a wonderful recovery story. In the meantime, if you need any help, you know, this is brought to you by New Life Ministries. You can always call, there's always someone there, 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today with Steve Arterburn here. My guest, Aaron Hansz. Now I have to read you some of these initials. He's got an MBA, He's a CRPC, an AIF. Now, if you know what that means, great. If you don't, well, sorry. But anyway, he's a financial planner. He's got this organization called Doulos Advisory, and he works with entrepreneurs, small businesses, churches. He's a coach to many entrepreneurs and executives. And boy, could I have used him earlier in my life. Probably could use him right now. He's got 5 kids, married to his wife, Stephanie. They live in the Woodlands near Houston, Texas. And I'm really excited to have him. So, Aaron, welcome to Life Recovery Today. Really glad that you're here.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. This is going to be fun.
Well, let's get started. You look great. You look like you've got it together. I've been told you do. But there was a time in your life that was not true, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
So tell us about that a little bit.
Well, it started pretty early in life. I was 14 when I had my first drink, and took it from my dad's liquor cabinet and took it to the bus stop, and absolutely, to be honest with you, fell in love with it. I loved the way it made me feel. I loved the way it allowed me to kind of expand my personality and get out there and be a part of things. It just snowballed very, very quickly. I found drugs early in my 16th, 17th year, and shortly thereafter, by 18, I was in my first rehab.
Okay, now let me ask you this. I argue with a lot of psychologists,
Okay.
and they want me to believe that an alcoholic drinks because they've got a lot of stress, or they're a little bit weak, or something's really bothering them, so they start drinking. They want to know why they start drinking. And my thing is, if you want to see people that start drinking because they've got stress or something's bothering, go to happy hour. All those people are drinking because of that. But here's what I say, and I want to see if it's true with you. I could be proved wrong right here on my very own program. But I say that I've never known alcoholics to have anything in common, all of them, but one thing, and they all have this one thing in common, and that is a high tolerance for alcohol, which allows them to get addicted to the chemical. Other people, they get sick if they drink the same amount, or they fall asleep or whatever. So in your case, is it true that you had a high tolerance for alcohol?
Yes, I believe a very high tolerance. At the end, it was an easy 5th a day.
A 5th a day. Now see, there you go. All right, and anybody else, I mean, literally most people, if you had a 5th of alcohol, you might even be dead on a 5th of alcohol. And of course, I've talked to young 12-year-olds that had a half a 5th, and they were just talking to me kind of like they were normal because their tolerance had already gone up. But anyway, thanks for making that point for me. So at the worst point of all this, what happened, and how did you turn it around? How did you get to that point where you wanted it to be different?
Well, I was fortunate enough that I had 2 turnaround points. One, when I was younger with the drugs, and it came very quickly, came very hard. And I just knew that this is not the way a 19-year-old, 18-year-old person should be living. And I went to rehab, and I was introduced to AA and recovery. And there was a lady down the hall who was an alcoholic. Now, see, I wasn't an alcoholic because I was special. I had a drug problem. And I was never, ever going to be like her. She was bitter, and she was mean, and she smelled, and that's just not the game that I was going to play. Right. And then shortly thereafter, well, not shortly, but about 15 years later, I found myself literally laying on the ground in a ditch, covered in ants, and I was that lady. I had just left the bar after being there for about 9 hours, after a pretty successful day, and it had to end. And I was either going to end or I was going to do something else. And quite honestly, I decided that it was time for me to call it quits. So I called my dad, and I called him to say goodbye and have a little conversation. And then I woke up 2 days later. I'm not really sure exactly what had happened, but I know my wife came and got me. And when I woke up, I then went to a meeting.
You went to a meeting. Now, did you go back into treatment, or did you just start going to meetings and from there on out?
No, I was fortunate enough to have been introduced to AA earlier in my life. So this time, I had been to 3 rehabs, by the way, between these 2 instances. And I knew what I had to do. And it started with getting on my knees. And the way I was going to get some help doing that is going to a meeting. So I went to a meeting.
All spiritual awakenings begin with the word help. I think it was Jonathan Edwards that said that, but it seems like that was absolutely the case for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you maintain sobriety in those first few days? Did you go to a lot of meetings, or what did you do?
So I went to a couple meetings a week in the beginning, maybe 3 or 4. I did not go every day, but I went meeting shopping, and I found a meeting that I had some connections with. Just some people were warm to me, made me feel like I wasn't an oddball, and I listened. And I picked this old man. His name was Happy, and he was much older than I was. But his answer for everything was God. And he was a big book thumper, and clearly a big book thumper. And I asked him to be my sponsor. And it was funny because there was another guy in the room that entered about the same time that I did, and I didn't know this, but that particular meeting had bets placed, and the bet was not on me. And so James, his real name was James, but Happy turned and kind of said, "As long as you do what I say." And I had tried this a couple of times. I've been to a couple of rehabs. I've been in and out of meetings. And for the first time in my life, I was willing to do what somebody else told me to do without Aaron trying to do it his way. Yeah. And I said, absolutely.
So do you remember, after you started recovery, did the craving ever become pretty strong after that at any one time? And what did you do if it did?
It was a tough, I'm going to say 6 months. Wasn't every day, but I would find something else to do. I would call James. I very quickly started a little network of sober people. But I think the big thing I did is that I kept myself physically busy. That's what I did. You know, I would get up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't stop until it was time to go to bed.
Well, what I'm hearing is kind of the no-fail approach, or the most likely to succeed approach. You went to meetings, you got a sponsor, and then you developed these supportive people around you. Not just a sponsor, but go-to folks, and then you didn't lay around feeling sorry for yourself. You stayed busy. Now, if I could just get every person that I've ever worked with to just do that, I mean, the success rate would be so strong. Now, you were a believer. You were raised in the church. Yeah. In fact, I did a lot of my drinking and drugging in youth group. Okay. And so when you entered into recovery or became known as somebody with a drinking problem, did the church help you? What happened there? Well, it was kind of interesting. So I have been an avid churchgoer, even in my highest use days. There was always a pull to the church, and I had some support. Some pastors would be there for me, allow me to lean on them a little bit. But at the end of the day, the church came into play when I was willing to be there for the church. When it was no longer a what can the church give me, but what can we do together, my relationship with the church just blossomed. Awesome. And so you've been doing groups and things like that. We'll hear a little bit more about what life is like now, but really excited to have Aaron Hansz on here. And you know, maybe you've just tuned in for whatever reason, probably not an accident. And you've tried a lot of different things and nothing has worked because maybe you just haven't worked the things that you've tried. But I'll tell you, going to meetings, getting a sponsor, support around you, staying busy, it could change everything. We'll take a break. We'll come back for more of our interview with Aaron Hansz.
It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis, someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. And as I've said before, I hope that if you need something, you'll call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have so many resources in this whole life recovery resource line, including 5 different workbooks, which I think, whether it's the general workbook, which is the next best-selling thing after the 3 million Bibles that have sold, but you've got a workbook on eating disorder, sexual integrity, a different workbook, grief, and then recovery from divorce, all using the 12 steps. We're talking to Aaron Hansz, and he has used the 12 steps to get his life back together. And so, Aaron, we're talking about 9th step, making things right. Do you remember some of the people that were hurt along the way, and do you remember going back and trying to make it right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the question wasn't who, it was who wasn't hurt, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so how did it come about that you finally said, okay, here's my list, I'm going to go and I'm going to make amends and make restitution, whatever I need to do?
Well, I guess the first big thing is that I didn't just get to my amends, right? It was a process, and I walked with my sponsor as he walked me through the 3rd step, as he took me through the 4th step, as he took me through the 6th step, as he took me through the 8th step, and then once I finished the 8th step, I went out to do my 9th step work, right? I followed the prescribed order, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and which is so very important.
Yeah.
I actually started a recovery process by accident. Didn't know it was the 8th and 9th step, but that began turning my life around, and because I made the list and I made things right, and then for the first time I could look people in the eye, and before that I had hurt so many people I really couldn't do that.
Right.
Tell me about what life is like for you now inside. What does that feel like, and especially in relation to other people versus the way it was before, and in relation to habits and different things that you're tempted to do every now and then?
Yeah, well, first of all, the accession to drink is gone, right? And I've been able to get through my life looking at my behaviors in a new light. And there's a peace that I have today that I've never had. I got it about maybe 4 or 5 years into my recovery, and it is the dearest gift I've ever been gotten or ever received. Right? Sorry about that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I am not perfect. I still go to the business meetings wanting your approval. I still come home wanting my wife to greet me a certain way and my kids to say this and say that. But I'm able to accept people for where they are. And because of 4-step work, I've been able to notify myself of my resentments and where I start to get angry. And I've been able to work on that. So now the 9th step work isn't as great as it once was, because I'm anger free, not completely, but I'm a less angry person today than I have ever been. And with that peace, I'm able to relate with others and have healthy relationships, and set boundaries, and have boundaries set for me as well, right?
Yeah, the other thing that I say to every man that's recovering is that when they say to me, I don't really know where to start work. I'm going to a counselor, I need a counselor in addition to the 12 steps. I don't know where to start. And I will always say, well, why don't you start with your anger? Mm-hmm. And I've never had anybody say, oh, not me. not an angry person.
Right.
But
Right.
it really is kind of it's kind of the hardcore work that we have to do of the heart, is chipping away at that anger there. Do you relate to that?
Absolutely. I mean, it was really easy for me in my 8th and 9th step to know that I stole from you, or to know that I cheated you. But I had to do the 4th-step work to realize that I'd actually hurt you with my resentment, right? That I had actually talked against you, that I had actually positioned you not in a fair way. And those were actually the tough amends to make, because it had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with me. And the only way I was going to do that was with God's help.
Yeah. Now, one of the concepts that people have a little bit of trouble with, you mentioned God, and the steps say God as we understood him.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? That isn't really problematic to you, is it?
No, but I will tell you that I have grown a lot there, because it's problematic for me when somebody says that God is the group, or God is, the doorknob. But it is as I understand him. It is not as I define him, right? And I choose to name God as God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And my understanding of him is different today than it was yesterday. It's vastly different than it was 15 years ago. And it will be different tomorrow, right? And that understanding continues to grow.
I'm with you. I think, of course, addiction you can end up with so much shame and alienation, you can't even think about God. I get that.
Yeah.
But I've always felt like it just isn't realistic to make God the group. Now, it's okay to say the only thing that's more powerful than me that I believe in right now would be that these people in this group want me to get better, and I can call on them to do that. But I really think that we start this recovery process in a realistic way by saying there has to be someone more powerful than me, a thing, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to begin to search for it rather than be satisfied that it's the group or the doorknob.
Right. Yeah, I am.
And so now you still go to secular meetings, but you also have a Life Recovery Bible, I understand.
Yes, I do. Yep.
And so why haven't you just started going to Christian meetings and Christ-centered meetings in your recovery?
So the best way to describe it is that the Word of God is what I'm called to do. And the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous helps me do that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the Bible is mysterious, right? And it even says that it's mysterious. And I don't always fully understand it. But I can understand 12 steps, and I can understand another individual saying, I'm having trouble with this whole idea of amends, or I'm having trouble helping someone else, or who is this God anyways, right? Those are real life situations that I battle with when I go to the grocery store and I see a pretty young lady, or I see a fancy car. It's just because I haven't had a drink doesn't mean I'm the child of God that God wants me to be. There's always room for growth and growth. I'm sorry for repeating myself, but growth, right? That's what it's about: growing closer to God, growing as a useful member of society, and being someone that people can count on.
Well, that word growth is so important because, I believe everybody needs a growth program, and if it's not these 12, then find something else.
Yeah.
And people that say I was delivered from the addiction, well, that's great. So now you don't have to battle the craving in the beginning, but what are you going to do to grow? Because you weren't delivered into instant character, instant maturity.
Right.
And so growth is a very, very key word.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, God bless you. I hope our paths will cross very soon.
That would be great.
And thank you for being with us here. And I just hope and pray that God continues to bless you and your wife and your 5 kids.
Well, thank you, and same to you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right. We'll take a break. We'll come back. I'll give you a little bit of a thought to carry with you here. You're listening and watching Life Recovery Today.
Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. You know, when you think about this ninth step and making it right, I think about the story of the prodigal son. And here's this one son, the prodigal, and he doesn't really have an intent to make it right with dad. He just wants to eat better with these pigs. And as a Jewish person, really important not to eat with pigs. And then this elder brother character, you know, he's so disrespectful. He's not acting out, but he's acting in. So you got the younger brother who is disrespectful, takes his inheritance and leaves. You've got the elder brother who's disrespectful and he thinks his father is foolish for letting the young son back in. He's jealous and all of that. And then you have this successful dad. And he's obviously successful because there's an inheritance. Now, everybody that sees this surely sees that the father represents God. They see that the prodigal son represents all of us who go astray. And hopefully they see that perhaps the real part of that story is the elder brother who isn't so flagrant in his disrespect and rebellion, but he's acting in. And both of those guys need to make amends. They need to make it right with dad. We don't know the end of the story, but I would hope and pray that all of us, whether we're the prodigal or the elder, we would decide we're going to make it right. Not just to help the person and help ourselves, but really in honor of God. Thanks for joining me today. If you need any help, you call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.